So, Fenceline Community, more Rhetoric coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logical Reason. And as always, I want to say thank y'all for joining me today. So, Fenceline Community is an example of end result thinking. Now, a Fenceline Community is a community that's located adjacent to some type of company or military base, or maybe some industrial or service center, or that's directly next to anything that basically that's affected by pollution. Now, that could be air pollution, it could be noise pollution, it could be odors, chemical emissions, it could be excessive traffic, and so on and so forth. But anything that makes this community undesirable to live in because it's adjacent to that center or whatever. Now, there's basically, a lot of race hustlers will cry about, Fenceline Community. And again, race hustlers will use anything that they can use to cry about racism. That's just what race hustling is. They can use anything to profit with race and to keep black people enraged with race. Now, Fenceline communities do exist. There's no doubt about that. But I have two problems with turning Fenceline communities into a race issue, because they're not. Number one is that it's not a race issue. I mean, it's not like only black people live in fence-line communities. Plenty of white people live in fence-line communities. And I would probably say that white people live in fence-line communities probably at the same rate in which black people do. Now, I've never seen any numbers to substantiate that. But I mean, the fact is there's still a lot of white people who live in fence-line communities. And given the fact that there are more white people in the country, I would say there's probably is an equal rate of white people living in fence-line communities, because we don't look at all these flyover states where white people live in these areas. But it's not a race issue. Again, people of all races live in fence-line communities. So them trying to say this is about race and keeping a black man down is idiotic, because there's no evidence to say that this is a race issue. Now, my second issue is with the chicken or the egg scenario. Were these communities here, and then they built these centers, these industrial centers or service centers? Did they build them, or the military bases, did they build them next to these areas? Usually under the guise of creating jobs, and then these centers created these fence-line communities? Or were the centers there already? Were the military bases, the industrial centers there already, and people build around them because of cheap land? Well, that's the question that has to be asked, Now, again, they exist, no doubt about it. And if you live in a fence-line community, no doubt about it that you probably, if you wanted to move, you couldn't move, because no one's going to buy the property because of the land is so undesirable. And this is an issue. So I'm not denying that fence-line communities exist. That's why I say it's end result thinking. They exist. The problem is it's not because of racism. And how exactly all these fence-line communities across America, in which white people are located in, how is that racism? It's not. So black people, again, as I say, these race hustlers will take anything and make racism out of it. If they can find racism in a can of ravioli, they're gonna go to a grocery store and they're gonna start picketing and crying about racism. That's just what they do. They need to find any means in order to hype and hustle race. And the fact that they have to stoop to such insanity lets you know that the whole race issue is really nonsense. They have to manufacture it most of the time. But anyway, if you ever hear anybody crying about a fence-line communities, again, they exist. No doubt about that. No doubt about it, they exist. But it's not a race issue. So you never let them put that nonsense narrative on you. And if you ever hear any black person crying about a fence-line community, well, you know how to defend it. Anyway, y'all, Is that side that line from those G.I. Joe skits? Well, now you know, and knowing is half the battle. And as always, until next time.